Welcome to Om Times TV, a division of Om Times Media and Broadcasting. Healing with crystals is an ancient practice. Yet did you know that the essence of gemstones can be used in homeopathy? Spiritual awakening, self-awareness, and intuition are some of the gifts that gemstone remedies can bring to your life. Homeopath, teacher, and author Giovanna Franklin will show you a different perspective on the healing properties of these magical gemstones. Join us in Gemstones and Crystals in Homeopathy and discover the power of gemstone remedies.
Hi, welcome to Gemstones and Crystals in Homeopathy. I'm your host, Giovanna Franklin, and today I want to talk to you about gemstones in a different way. I want to sprinkle a little bit of numerology on gemstones and see what happens. Why numerology? So I have been interested in numerology for a number of years now, and I have been following some experts of numerology. I have been learning and dabbling for myself. And I realized that all these disciplines like numerology, astrology, homeopathy, just to name a few, they are really all connected. And so let's start from what is numerology. Numerology is a very, very ancient discipline that goes hand in hand, in fact, with astrology. Now we're talking thousands and thousands of years. Think Babylonian times and even way farther back. So this is what we have the record of. We have the record of tablets from 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 years ago that tell us that our ancestors knew how to measure the distance between different planets. They knew how to measure the circumference of the Earth. And of course, this kind of knowledge must have taken a number of generations to land. And so this knowledge is really incredibly ancient. And our ancestors knew that there was power, there was certain power behind numbers. Numbers are symbols and they symbolize frequency. They knew about frequencies and they knew how powerful numbers could be, to the point where there were these mystery schools where only the initiated were taught the meanings, the real meanings behind numbers. So when you think that people like Pythagoras was an initiate, Plato was an initiate, and even Archimedes. So they were not just scientists, they were not just mathematicians. Of course, maths and numbers had very practical, very real purposes, but they also had some sort of esoteric meaning that only a few selected people could get to, could learn. Even in organized religions that we recognize today, we find that certain numbers tend to pop up over and over again, even in the Old Testament. In all ancient religious texts, there are certain numbers that seem to have a particular relevance, a particular meaning. And if you think about it, we still have the Kabbalah, which is an esoteric branch of Judaism that is still practiced today. So numbers do represent, their symbols of frequencies. And we know now that everything around us and about us is frequencies. We are made of frequencies. It's all electricity and frequency and a matter of frequency match. So I find it fascinating because, and a bit frustrating as well, because I grew up with astrology and being fascinated by astrology and gemstones, but numerology was not on my radar until a few years ago. And maybe it's because I was really bad at maths. I was always really rubbish at maths. And I wonder if a teacher had told me about numerology, perhaps I would have paid more attention in class, and perhaps it would have been better. One of the reasons why I didn't go really deep into astrology is because astrology is all about maths, and it's quite complicated maths at that, even now with all the softwares and all the computer programs that you have. But I do know that all these are connected. Astrology, like I said, numerology, homeopathy, and I will explain the links in a minute. So what I want to clarify, first of all, is that astrology and numerology, and you probably already know this if you're watching this, but there are still so many people who think that astrology and numerology are some kind of predictive disciplines. So, the type that, oh, you were born on that date, and you have your name amount to this number, and so your life is going to be like this, and you're going to meet a tall, dark stranger on Tuesday, for example. That's predictive astrology or predictive numerology. And this is really the trivialized version of these disciplines. And it's not really what these disciplines were conceived for, but it's being used by culture, by mainstream culture, to trivialize and to discredit, really, these disciplines. But that's not the case. The point of numerology and astrology is really to understand the universe, to understand the laws of the universe, to gain knowledge of how the universe works. Because if you understand what kind of energies are playing around in a given moment in time, and you recognize the expression of these energies, then you can work with these energies, and that can work to your advantage. So we're trying to work with the energies around us rather than against them. It's the same concept. If you're going out sailing on a boat, you're going to listen to the weather forecast, so you know which way the wind is blowing. And it's always much better to sail with the wind rather than against the wind, or follow the current and use the energy of the current and the winds rather than go against them. You can still get where you want to go against, rowing or sailing against the wind, against the currents, but it's going to take so much more energy. It's going to be so much harder, and it's going to be dangerous as well. So knowing the energies around you is going to help you, whatever you are going to do. Okay, so what's the link with homeopathy now, you may ask? So every year, at the start of December, I do something fun that at least I find fun. And it's a gemstone advent calendar. So it's a gemstone remedy advent calendar where every day on my Facebook page, Homeopathy Heals, I put the picture of a gemstone, and I talk about the homeopathic remedy from that gemstone, what it does, etc. So every day it's a different gemstone, and until the 24th of December. And it's just a fun thing that always generates nice conversation. People seem to enjoy it, and I like that too. So I try to make it a little bit different every year with different gemstones. But the way that I select the gemstones every day is kind of intuitive. So, I just decide today I feel like amethyst, and so I'm going to talk about amethyst. So there is no particular method in choosing which gemstone remedy I'm going to talk about every day. This year, I have decided to add numerology to help with the selection of the remedy, because like I said, every day the date has a particular number. The number is linked to a particular planet, and planets are also linked to crystals, and crystals are also homeopathic remedies. So these are all the links, these are all the steps that take me from numerology to homeopathy. So now that you see the link, I'm going to talk about this numerology and homeopathy today and also next week. And then in December, you can see the Gemstone Advent Calendar on my website and on my Facebook page. So let's start with, I wanted to start with the upcoming year, 2024. So I will tell you a little bit about that, even though we're still in November, but because we are already towards the end of 2023, we're already energetically speaking, we have a foot in 2024. So from a numerology point of view, 2024, and it's very simple, all you have to do is add the numbers of 2024, which gives you what? The number 8. So the number 8 in numerology is linked to the planet Saturn. And so 2024 is going to be the year of Saturn. 2023, the numbers add up to number 7. 7 is the number of Neptune. Neptune is the god of the seas. And what did we have this year? In many, many places around the world, for example, we had lots of floods, but also water in general has been very, very prominent in terms of themes, technological innovations in terms of water, cleaning water, restructured water. There are lots and lots of new things that are coming out regarding water, how to purify water. Like I said, restructured water. Masaru Emoto, the late Masaru Emoto, his studies of messages from water, the crystals, and what happens when you expose water to certain energies. His work has become even more prominent, and many, many more people are talking about it. So you see how this works. Like I say, it's not a prediction. It's not what's going to happen in 2024, but it's more like what's the weather like in 2024, the energetic weather. What kind of energies are we going to have in 2024? So 2024 is number 8, and 8 is the number linked to Saturn. And funnily enough, before today, I realized before starting the podcast that today is Friday the 17th. And 17, 7 plus 1 is 8. And 17, Friday the 17th, for some people in some culture, is regarded as unlucky, an unlucky number. There are lots of different reasons, cultural reasons, traditional reasons for that. However, it's not always the case if you follow numerology. And today in particular, if you add up all the numbers and the full date for today, so 17th of November, 17th of 11th, 2023, the sum of all this number is again 17, and again number 8. So today is a super number 8 on steroids. And I find it a funny coincidence. I was not supposed to do the podcast today. As you probably know, I was supposed to do the podcast last Friday, but I had the flu, and so I had to cancel and postpone to today. So it's interesting that I didn't know this, but here I am, and I'm talking about the number 8, and on a number 8 day, and about a number 8 year. So let's talk about Saturn then. What are the keywords? If you have to think about some keywords for Saturn. And by the way, when I say it's the year of Saturn, I am not talking astrologically. So I'm not talking about physical transits of Saturn. You don't need to check your birth chart to see where Saturn is. I mean, you may want to do that, but it's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the symbol number 8. That is the symbol of Saturn, and therefore it's the energy of Saturn. Okay, so astrologically speaking, that's a totally different way of explaining. We might be getting to the same conclusions and talking about the same energies, but I am just illustrating the numerology perspective on this. Okay, so when we think about Saturn, I think about a few keywords. One is chaos, fire, wind, heaviness, big changes, big opportunities. So why am I thinking of these words? So chaos, Saturn is quite a heavy energy, a chaotic energy. If you compare it with Uranus, Uranus can be also chaotic, very sudden changes with Uranus, and so it can be a bit chaotic. With Saturn, the chaos tends to be a bit more heavy energetically. I don't want to say negative, but there is that kind of connotation. Now, remember that Saturn, until recently in astrology, was also called the Great Malefic, because it was considered quite a negative planet. And so astrologers were very careful and watching the transits and where Saturn falls in your birth chart and so on. The theory now and the explanation is more that Saturn can present some challenges that you can work with. Again, energy that you can work with, and if you work with it, it can be quite rewarding. So Saturn can be chaotic and heavy if you haven't done your homework. Saturn is like a strict father figure. In Greek mythology, Saturn is Kronos, is the father time. So things are slowly, you need to be patient. Saturn slows you down because it makes you think about what you're doing. So you really have to think about what you're doing. You have to be methodical. You have to work hard to get your reward. If you don't, Saturn can be strict. There will be consequences and it can be uncomfortable. So that's where the chaos comes from. The fire and wind, now physically, Saturn as a planet, it's swept by really crazy winds, like 1,500 miles an hour winds all the time. And the atmosphere on Saturn apparently is really acidic, really burning. So fires. And so numerologists are thinking there may be the chances of seeing widespread fires in 2024, but also metaphorically and as a symbol, really explosive events, things that are going on in our personal lives, in our collective life. So very, very fiery, chaotic, heavy, because I said Saturn has always been felt as a heavy planet. It's the second biggest planet after Jupiter in our solar system anyway. So it's a big planet. It's an important planet. And actually, in ancient times, we have tablets and descriptions of what they used to call, the Babylonians, the Chaldeans, they used to call the night sun. And astronomers now reckon that they refer to Saturn. And apparently, thousands and thousands of years ago, Saturn was much closer to the Earth and it was a star. So at nighttime, it was incredibly bright as a star, and it was considered like a second sun, like an alternative sun, the night sun, particularly in the East. And it was worshipped as the night sun. So it's a very, very important, it's not just a planet. Now we see it, it's a planet, but it was actually a star, and it was much, much brighter. And so we still have this tradition, and Saturn still clearly has this energy, still gives this kind of energy that we still feel today. So each planet is linked to a number. It's also linked to a color. And colors are also linked to our chakras. So what are the colors of Saturn? The colors of Saturn are black or dark gray and purple and violet. And so from the point of view of the chakra, the corresponding colors are our root chakra, the dark one, black, or dark brown or maroon, and purple, violet, that's our third eye. That's our sixth chakra, the chakra of intuition. So in this year 2024, we're going to really pay attention to how grounded we are and try to be as grounded as possible, as strong as possible. Now, 2024, the number 2 refers to the symbol of cutting, and the 4 symbolizes our lower limbs, so our legs. And so we need to really try and strengthen our legs, which is another way of saying we need to get stronger and grounded. Think about the symbol of a tree. We are like trees. We can move, but we can be like trees. And so we need to strengthen the bases, the bottom part of ourselves, our roots. And that's why the root chakra is important. Really get down to basics in terms of health, how we eat, how healthy habits, just get stronger, getting our immune system stronger. The third eye is also interesting because we also have our intuition. When you think about it, the colors black and purple, they're very much religious colors. And most religious figures throughout the millennia until the present day use black and purple in ceremonies. When we think that, black is the color of priests, but it's also the color that we associate with grief, with funerals. And part of the reason for that is that black is a protective color. The frequency of the color black is protective. And priests in general, from all religions throughout history, they needed some sort of protection energetically from negative energies, from too much energy from other people. And so black is a protection. And purple and amethyst have been associated with religious rituals for absolutely thousands of years throughout, I mean, in all over the world. Purple has always been the color of religious high priests and royalty. And it has to do with intuition and higher self and seeing beyond. So even today, amethyst is the stone that cardinals and bishops wear on their fingers. So in other religions too, purple has always had a spiritual, highly spiritual meaning and symbolism. So from here, we can then link and move to the gemstones that have these characteristics and these colors. And we can do this, and we can talk about this after the break. I think this is a good time to have a break. So I'll see you in 5 minutes.
Om Times TV. In my book, Gifts from the Earth, I illustrate the healing properties of 12 gemstone remedies. You will see real case studies from my practice and dive into the wonderful world of gemstone remedies. This is a clear and practical guide on how to use gemstones in homeopathy. Whether you are an experienced practitioner or beginner, you will find this book a fascinating read. Gifts from the Earth is available on Amazon. Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself, invest in your brand, and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. Om Times Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, Om Times offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, an Om Times magazine columnist, and a syndicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on Om Times TV and broadcasting it across the extensive Om Times radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. Om Times. Open yourself to the possibilities.
If I could be you, and you could be me for just 1 hour. If we could find a way to get inside each other's minds. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes. Well, before you abuse, criticize and accuse, walk a mile in my shoes.
Hi, welcome back. So let's talk about black and purple in gemstones and gemstone remedies. So, of course, there are many different gemstones that have these colors. So tonight I just wanted to talk about a couple. So the first one that I wanted to talk about is black obsidian. And here it is, nice and shiny. It's very, very light. And this is how you differentiate it. That's how you recognize it from other black stones. Because the reason why it's so light, it's because it's from volcanic origin. So the lava that comes out, the last lava that comes out, and it cools down really quickly. It doesn't have the time to form crystalline structures. And this is why, and this is what you get. So there are different types, different colors of obsidian. You can get green obsidian, red obsidian. This one is the one that was always sought after. You can find obsidian just about everywhere around the world. So it's not particularly rare. However, it was always really appreciated because, as you can see, it's really nice and shiny and it's very sharp. So it was used a lot. I mean, nowadays they don't make much with obsidian apart from jewelry and crystals for crystal lovers. But in ancient times, obsidian was used to make utensils, tools, particularly cutting tools, daggers. But it was really not just for ordinary everyday activities, really for ceremonial activities of cutting. The Egyptian priests used an obsidian knife during the mummification process to take out the internal organs, for example. The Aztecs and the Mayans would have knives made from black obsidian when they did their not very nice sacrifices. But it was also thought of as a spiritual stone with special properties, with special powers. It was thought of being a stone where you could see the past and the future, because it was also used to make mirrors because it's so shiny. And for example, John Dee, who was Elizabeth I's astrologer, an alchemist and magician and everything else, he used to have a mirror made of black obsidian. And he also used to have a proper crystal ball made from obsidian where he claimed he could see the future. And incidentally, just a curiosity, I don't know if you know that John Dee used to write his papers in code, because even though he had the protection of the Queen of England, his activities could get him the accusation of being a witch or a sorcerer, and he could still end up dead. And so he would write in code, and his name in code was 007, and that's how Queen Elizabeth I called him. So that's a fun fact if you didn't know that. So he was the original 007 at Her Majesty's service. Anyway, so yes, so obsidian is the stone of truth, almost. So it makes you face up to what's really going on with you. So it's a very uncompromising kind of crystal. If you are using it as a crystal in healing, it can bring up aggravations in the sense that it really stirs things up inside you energetically. So if you have trauma, if you have memories, past memories, something that is hidden, something in your subconscious, it will bring it up to the surface, and that's not always a comfortable experience. So it is also called this brutal and direct as a stone, but it's also very cathartic. It's a purifying stone. Now, in general, crystals with a dark color or black crystals, they all deal with some sort of purification, detoxing at some level, or protection from negative energies. So for example, I am wearing this with the end of this pendant is a tektite. Tektite is not a crystal technically. It's the product of a meteorite hitting the earth, but in the proving that we did, making our homeopathic remedies from tektites, negative energies also came up, and so the theme of protection, of detoxing, still comes up. So it is a cathartic stone. If you use it as a homeopathic remedy, it also deals with detox, physical detox. It has more of an affinity with the intestine, with the gastrointestinal system. So symptoms like IBS, digestive symptoms, but also constipation or overuse of medication like antibiotics, for example. And by the way, antibiotics can stay in the system for a long, long time. I have many patients because I do bioscan, Zyto Bioscan, which is a software that I use and can be used remotely as well. So when I use it, sometimes antibiotics come up in the gastrointestinal system, and the patient will say, well, but I haven't, the last time I had antibiotics was 5 years ago, but they're still there. They're still, or the effects are still there. In some cases, depending on the person, the individual's detoxing pathways, some people are not able to expel this type of medication quickly enough, and so they are still there. So it has a similar effect as homeopathic bowel nosodes, which are the equivalent to homeopathic probiotics, for example. So a cleansing effect, a detoxing effect. Also, it has an affinity with blood. So cleansing, purifying, blood purifier. From the mental emotional point of view, obsidian is very, there's a lot of depression. It's very negative. And you can hear the individual when somebody says everything is black. You know, like that Rolling Stones song. Everything is black, painted black. My future is bleak. Everything is black. I only want to wear black. I don't like colors. I just feel so down. But they do mention the actual word black, or they are dressed top to bottom in black. There is a lot of depression, a lot of apathy, like proper clinical depression that doesn't let you out of bed in the morning. So you can't get out, you can't see the point of doing anything, and a lot of frustration as well, a lot of fatigue. So this is the kind of remedy that might be indicated in those cases. So there are, like I say, there are other gemstone remedies, from black gemstone remedies like jet, for example. And jet has a similar function in terms of detoxing. But in terms of, from the emotional point of view, a mental point of view, jet is more animated. There might be depression, but the individual is able to mask that depression. A lot of people are in denial about the depression. I've met a lot of people whom I would never have suspected in a million years they were depressed. And then later on, it actually transpired that they did suffer from deep depression, but they were always cracking jokes. They were always smiling. And they never seem to be down. I mean, we have a very stereotypical view of depression. We think that somebody depressed is somebody who's always having a long face. And that is not necessarily depression. That might just be despondency. That might just be, feeling down, or, having a bad day, or just being moody, but not necessarily depression. So jet as a remedy is different from obsidian in this respect. So obsidian, you need obsidian when you really see this kind of depression where everything is nothing is going right. Everything is terrible. You can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, as they say. But having said that, it is a remedy that has to be given slowly in low potency because of what I just said. It can be a brutal remedy. It can really stir things up and from your past. And if you have, like I said, past trauma, or things in your subconscious, you don't want all that stuff to come out in one go. You don't want it to come out suddenly, because the aggravation will be really severe, and that can make you feel worse and actually, give you a setback. And that's not what you want. So in any cases of detox, you want to go slowly and gently. So yes, you want the individual to realize that there are things that maybe they have to work on, whether physically or emotionally. You want them to have that realization, but at the same time, you want to be the support that they need, and you want to be going really nicely and slowly and gently. Okay. So from the purple point of view, the quintessential purple stone that we'll think about is amethyst. And here it is, nice big chunk of amethyst. And amethyst is also of volcanic origin, but as you can see, it has this lovely crystal formation, natural crystal formation with hexagons, and it's really, really pretty. So, okay, there's different colors. Amethyst can go from purple to violet to deep red. My favorite is this kind of color. So what about amethyst? So first of all, the name amethyst is from the Greek, and it's from which is the like in English, prefix, and methistos. And so methistos means toxic and non-toxic. So that's what it means. It means non-toxic. And this is because since ancient times, amethyst was thought of as a detoxing stone, particularly from poisons, but also incredibly good for hangovers. And so this was also called the stone, the crystal of Dionysus, because Dionysus was the god of wine. And if you had too much of the grape, you could be healed by wearing some amethyst, go to a crystal healer, and that would make you feel better. Now, there is definitely something in this, because in homeopathic terms, the homeopathic remedy, amethyst, definitely has an affinity with the liver. It's a very good liver cleanser. And it's interesting because obviously wine particularly, or poison, that affects the liver, first of all. So the liver is one of our major detoxing organs. And so I don't know how so long ago made that connection, but there is definitely a connection between amethyst and liver. And I have used amethyst a lot for issues with liver. It's also very good for DNA issues. So for some reason, it's a very good remedy for children with Down syndrome and other genetic or hereditary conditions. I don't mean that it changes your DNA or, cures conditions like Down syndrome or other genetic conditions, but it definitely helps the expression, let's say, of these genetic conditions. And in the provings, I proved this this remedy, not in a group, just myself out of curiosity. And there was a lot of anger, I remember, emotionally, that came out. So this remedy has a lot of anger, and that's also linked to the liver. Now, the liver in traditional Chinese medicine is the seat of emotions. And if your liver is not working properly, it's full of toxins, it's sluggish, you are going to feel more irritable and more angry more often. You are bilious, as they say. You're full of bile. That's your liver and your gallbladder not working properly. So one of the symptoms of amethyst can also be anger. There is also insomnia. There is addiction. So amethyst is a good remedy for addictions, for alcoholism, for example. Very similar to the homeopathic remedy Nux vomica, which is another very good remedy. Nux vomica is a plant, and it's another very good remedy that helps the liver, and it helps to detox. So in general, it's also it's a psychotic remedy, and psychotic with an S, S-I. It's not P-S-I. In homeopathy, the psychotic miasm is characterized by this sense of being split, like not so much like a double personality, but there is this sense of split when you are faced with a difficult choice, and you don't know which way to go, and this can cause emotional instability. So the best case, and I have this case in my book, Gift from the Earth. It's the case of a priest, and it's interesting that it was a priest I gave this remedy to the first time, because we talked about the connection between purple and spirituality and religion, and this priest had a lot of issues with liver conditions, genetically fatty liver. So she could not tolerate any standard, any medication, any allopathic medication, because everything would aggravate the liver. And when she took the amethyst, she really detoxed, not just physically, but emotionally. She had a lot of suppressed anger that came out, and she was she became aware of how much she had suppressed emotionally, and it was a very, very cathartic experience. So so this is another type of detoxing remedy. The obsidian may be more about the intestine and the gastrointestinal system. Amethyst really more about the liver. There is a lot of, it's like I said, it's very much close to Nux vomica. There's a lot of ambition. There's a lot of fear of not being able to perform the task, your job, your career is very, very important. So amethyst really gives you this clarity about who you are, and gets rid of all the things that you don't need physically, emotionally, all the things that have caused maybe your body to get sick. But all the things that we don't need, that sometimes we think we need or we think we want, but are not really, they don't belong to us. So this is the connection with the third eye. You really start to listen to a higher power, to your higher self, and you really recognize what you need and what is good for you. And it gives you a new direction, let's say. So, so this is everything for tonight. Next week, I'm going to talk a bit more about more gemstones and numerology and the link with numerology, and I will give you a preview of what the Advent calendar, the Gemstones Advent calendar, will look like. And you can follow me on Homeopathy Heals on Facebook. And until then, have a great weekend, and I'll see you next week.
This show is not intended to diagnose, prevent, or treat any diseases or illnesses. The information presented within cannot substitute the advice of your physician or other trained healthcare professionals. The content of this show is for educational purposes only and is the expressed opinion of the show host and guests.